Well, good morning, community, and hello to everyone. Hope you all are doing great. I'm Eloise Reyes, and I'm the Assembly member representing the 47th Assembly District, which encompasses the communities of Fontana, Colton, Grand Terrace, Rialto, San Bernardino, and the unincorporated communities of Bloomington and Muscoy. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We gathered today so that we can talk about a particular bill, AB 2147, which is going to be implemented starting January 1st, 2021. So we're 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. The bill is known as the Inmate Firefighter Expungement Bill. But before we get started, I do want to set some expectations for this Zoom call. During the call, all participants, all of you, my community members, are going to be on mute. My team has collected a number of questions over the past several days from our community so that we can ask our public defender, our interim public defender, Tom Sohn. After a brief introduction, I will ask our special guest a series of questions, and these are questions that you all have provided to us. If at any time you think of a question, please write it down or email it to my office, or you can put it in the chat, and my staff is taking care of noting all of those. We're going to gather those questions and make sure that we can provide the answers for you in the next few days. There are a number of new laws that are going to be implemented. They become effective January 1st. But for us, the most important one, especially for this call, for this Zoom call, is AB 2147, which is near and dear to my heart. It's been a long journey to get that legislation passed, but we did it. And many of you who are on this call assisted us in that regard, and I thank you all for supporting us along the way. The bill has been supported by many, and as you may have found out during this process, even the Los Angeles Lakers supported us and tweeted and included it in their social media. Now, today with us, our very special guest is San Bernardino County Interim Public Defender, Tom Sohn. He'll be speaking shortly, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. Thomas W. Sohn graduated from Washington State University in 1996 with Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, Sociology, and Criminal Justice. He also graduated from the University of San Diego Law School in 1999 and joined a private law firm practicing toxic tort defense until he joined the San Bernardino County Public Defender's Office in 2001. He was promoted to Chief Deputy Public Defender in 2013, overseeing all three major divisions during the 5 years as Chief Deputy. He was recently promoted to Assistant Public Defender in April of 2018. And now we're very proud he's the Interim Public Defender for San Bernardino County. Thank you for being with us, Tom. We appreciate you making the time. And I'm going to ask you a few things in just a moment, but I want to give a little bit of an introduction for those who aren't sure what AB 2147 is. This particular law is going to allow nonviolent offenders who are inmate firefighters to gain employment once they're released. AB 2147 allows for those who participate in the state or county fire camp to apply for an expungement upon release. As a result, they will be able to seek a variety of jobs, including those that require an occupational license from the state of California. It helps inmate firefighters gain employment once released, especially the employment that is more than just minimum wage that requires a California license. And a little bit of background on California fire camps. This is how California's Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation selects nonviolent, minimal custody inmates and transfers them to training camps throughout the state. There, these individuals are trained as firefighters, and they're fighting the fires right alongside our very professional firefighters. I wrote this law because our community members and everybody around us deserves a second chance. If we're asking someone to risk their life and we train them to be firefighters, they also deserve the right to become actual firefighters and earn a living upon their release. I think it's really important for those who are part of our community to have that opportunity, to have a career for something they've been trained for, and not have to worry about whether or not they're even going to be accepted. We're here to support one another in every way possible. I can tell you that through the process of the bill, and even now, we know that there are some who don't approve of this law. However, I think it's very clear to most of us that formerly incarcerated firefighters deserve the right, because they are, in the past, have generally been blocked from ever making a living wage as a firefighter due to licensing barriers, even though they've been trained on the job and have had this actual experience as firefighters. All right, well, Tom, I've said a little bit about this bill and a little bit about what we did. Please tell us more about yourself, and I want our community to know more about you. And tell me about some of the work that the Public Defender's Office does.
Right. First and foremost, thank you, Assemblymember Reyes, for this opportunity to showcase my department, as well as give us an opportunity to speak with the members of our community that we serve. I wanted to personally thank you for authoring this bill and fighting for this passage, because it gives our former clients, as well as our community members, a pathway to achieve their countywide vision of self-sufficient and well-being. It's something that's important that we not only pass these laws, but give individuals opportunities to actually succeed and not fail. So we really appreciate that. So I'm excited to lead my department of attorneys, investigators, social workers, and staff. Every day, especially during this pandemic, it gets harder and harder, but we're doing what we can to help individuals not only address issues that they have at maybe one of the worst moments of their lives, but even afterwards, to try and help them get back on their feet, clear their records, and give them a pathway to being successful and being successful members of our community, which is really important. And I think this is just one of the bills that helps us get there.
Well, I know that expungements aren't something new. Your office does expungements already, and I understand you have an entire department dedicated to expungements. Tell us about that, please.
We have a team of attorneys and paralegals who are dedicated solely to post-conviction relief, expungements, certificate rehabs, and any other relief that we can try and get. The process is pretty simple. They can go on our website at sbpubdef.com, and I'll put it in the chat. And there's a link to post-conviction relief. They can send us an email at pdpcr@department.sanbornsbcounty.gov, or call us at 909-387-0569, and we will get them started on that process. It's pretty simple. It's a screening sheet so we can determine whether or not they're eligible. Previously, on the old expungement laws, or what we like to use, record clearing laws, you had to be an individual who was serving a probation sentence or a county prison sentence, and upon completion of the sentence and all terms and conditions, you might be eligible if it was an eligible offense and you've completed all the terms and conditions. A lot of times our fire camp clients who did their time, served, fought fires, put their lives at risk, they weren't eligible because some of their sentences were for state prison sentences, or once they got released, they still had other terms that they had to finish as a term and condition of their probation. It might be fines or whatever it is, and it might take them 3 years after they get released to become eligible. The exciting part with 2147 is they're immediately eligible. So they get trained, they fight fires, and as soon as they get out, they're immediately eligible to continue on with the skills that they learned.
And thank you for mentioning that, Tom. That is probably one of the most exciting things about AB 2147 is that the judge can also summarily end any of the probation, parole. That's part of it, right?
Yes, absolutely it is. It is up to the discretion of the court. Once an individual successfully satisfies all the requirements of fire camp and they're released from their commitment, they can contact our office and get the process going, get it in court, and ask the court to grant relief.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to this, quite frankly. There were questions about how many people would be applying. Well, we're going to find out soon, because come January 1st, your office is open, right?
Yes, we are. We have been open. We've been open through the pandemic. We continue to serve the public. We'll be open on January 1st. If there's families out there who know that they have loved ones that will be getting released on it and want to get a head start on it, have them contact us. They could call us collect. We'll accept it. We'll get the paperwork started. Prior to the pandemic, the timelines to process the 1203.4 expungements could range up to 60 days, because once we get all the information, we file with the courts then have to send it out to the DA's office and probation to do investigation as to whether or not they're eligible. So there used to be a time-consuming process, and with the pandemic, it's gotten a little bit harder to get cases on calendar. But I imagine that at the start of the year, when we get going, we'll be able to streamline it a little better. I have been meeting with some of our justice partners. There's some exciting ideas that are coming in the works that maybe you and I could talk about later, specific to this bill, that might even speed it up more. That's wonderful.
In talking about the process itself, it also applies to those who completed the California Conservation Camp or the county fire camps in the past. So it isn't for someone who is presently incarcerated and is going to come out in the future, right?
Absolutely. It is anyone at any given point. If they successfully complete a fire camp or one of the programs, they are eligible. So even if they were in this group of individuals that previously weren't eligible or had to wait 5 to 7 years for a certificate of rehab, which isn't as good as this new bill, they are now immediately eligible. That's the exciting part.
Thank you. I will tell you that just knowing the doors that are going to open, and not just a crack. I mean, these doors are going to open, wide open. Now, let's say somebody applies after they have completed the California Conservation Camp, the fire, or the county fire camp, and let's say that a judge in their discretion denies it. Can they reapply?
They can absolutely reapply. A lot of times currently, if a expungement does get denied, the courts and bench officers are really good about their reasons as to why. Then we will work on those reasons with our clients to get them back on track to what we need to do to get the petition granted as soon as we can after it's denied. Absolutely. And it was really important. It was really important
as we were when we introduced the bill. We wanted to make sure that if it was ever denied, that it was without prejudice. And what that means, as you have just said, that means that they can reapply and get another chance to try to get their record expunged. Just because it's not done, it's not granted for when they apply, doesn't mean that the doors have shut. It just means that, they got to try at a later time.
Right. Hopefully we get it done right the first time around, but absolutely it's without prejudice, so we could keep going back until it gets granted.
That's right. That's right. This bill has, and I'm proud to be the author of it, but I'm very proud to have had so many partners work with us on it. And the first question, here I have a guest that I want to ask all the questions of, but I see that the first question reads, why was AB 2147 necessary? But I think we can both answer that. For me, it's clear that California has been rethinking criminal justice for several years. We have to find ways to improve outcomes for those who have made mistakes. When we look at our inmate firefighters or the formerly incarcerated firefighters, their commitment and their determination as they get trained and as they actually fight the fires, they're committed to turning the lives around. And that was my motivation. I wanted to create a clear pathway to help them get back on track, to use the skills that they used and once again, to not just to have a job at minimum wage, they're trained, and they should be able to use that training to have a good paying job, a union job, giving back to their families, taking care of themselves, and giving back to the communities. When we were putting this bill together, and as we did a few amendments, we worked very closely with all of our stakeholders. But for you, why do you think a bill like this was necessary?
Assembly member, I think a lot of times we see bills get passed that benefit our clients. But once that happens, there aren't opportunities, right? They still can't get jobs because they have felony convictions on their records. And the opportunities aren't given to them to be able to succeed. Specific to this bill, we're training individuals with a specific skill set to fight fighters, to fight fires. And they're doing everything that they can to do exactly that and put their lives in fighting these fires. But once they get out, they're not able to get jobs with fire departments or other fire crews because the law required them to wait sometimes 5 to 7 years. And even to a small subset of the population, they weren't eligible for the expungements, and they're only eligible for certificate of rehabs, which still required them to mark on application that they had a felony conviction, right? So this bill really paved that way because now individuals don't have to wait that 5 years, right? They can immediately put that skill set to use that they learned and get gainful employment to get them down that right track and to give them an opportunity once they get released. And I think it's kind of like we talk about rehabilitation. Well, it's great to rehabilitate, but what happens if you rehabilitate, you get released, and there's nothing there for you?
So with this bill, with the language of the bill as signed by Governor Newsom, you don't have to wait the 5 years. You can still be on probation. And once it is expunged, do you still have to declare on an application that you have a felony conviction?
You do not. However, I believe there is an exception, which was if you were applying to be licensed to be a teacher or a couple others you do, but for the most part, you do not.
So police officer, teacher, there are a few and that is right in the language of the bill. Other than those exceptions, then you don't have to include that on your application.
No, and there's a specific section to the bill itself that specifically specifies that you don't have to, which makes it great.
And that includes when you apply for a license. Now, we've been talking about those who want to become firefighters, but is this only for a license, an EMT license?
No, it's we talk about if you want to be a firefighter because that's a skill set that you're being trained to. But it will open the doors to any type of job opportunity that you're seeking, as long as it's not one of the specific ones where you do have to disclose. It will open doors to any career opportunity that you want.
And I will tell you one example, as I spoke with a young lady, formerly incarcerated, a firefighter, and she has been working on her master's in social work, finishing that up. But at the end of that, she wouldn't be able to get a license through the state of California to be a clinical a clinician. Now with this, she called, she was so excited. She says, I can apply now to the state of California and I don't have to disclose the prior conviction. I will take my test, and as long as I pass, I will be licensed. And these are the sorts of stories that we are hearing. It's really exciting, quite frankly. Here's another question, and we've answered most of it. What is an expungement? You've talked about that. Who can apply for one? You've talked about that. And the process, if you will now take us through, somebody calls you and says, I was in one of the fire camps, whether it's through the California Conservation Camp or the county fire camp, and I have a felony conviction and I'd like to apply. Can you walk us through what will happen?
Sure. So basically we'll do a screening, take down some basic information, contact information, case information is always helpful if they have case numbers. That kind of gets us ahead of the curve so we don't have to try and find it. We'll then look through to make sure that we have documentation of completion of fire camp. We will fill out the petition. We'll need a signature on it. We'll file it. We'll go into court. We'll take care of everything. We'll let the individual know the court date. during these times, especially with the pandemic, a lot of times we can appear without our clients. So if the individual wants to be there, that would be helpful. If they don't, we could probably do it without them there. We'll take care of the process, and once it gets granted, the paper will get sent off to the Department of Justice, and they will take care of clearing the record. It's really a simple process. That's the beauty behind it.
That's wonderful. Now, one of the questions was, with COVID-19 in mind, how long is the process going to take now?
Yeah, so that's tough to say, Assembly Member. As you know, with a lot of the emergency orders that come down from the California Supreme Court, there's been a pause on jury trials. We're trying to do things safely, socially distance, and follow all the precautions to keep everybody safe. So it is taking longer to get cases on calendar. I don't have a timeline. From our end of it, I'm confident that from the point of contact of filling out the screening sheet, filling out the petition, will not take us long at all. We could probably get that done in a matter of weeks. We get the petition filed, and then it's a matter of getting a court date, getting the cases over to the DAs, the probation office, getting their reports done, and then getting a court date when it's safe for everybody to come in.
Now, in one of our prior discussions on this, the question was asked, if somebody had private counsel during the underlying case, will the public defender still take their case?
Yes. So the screening that we will do is to make sure that we do not have a conflict of interest. Without getting into the conflict of interest laws, it's just a basic screening to see if we can represent an individual. So irregardless of who represented them previously, if we don't have a conflict, we will absolutely help them out.
And that's really a really good thing. When your office told me that, I wanted to make sure that my community knew that San Bernardino County Public Defender's Office was there to help them, whether they had private counsel or not. You don't have to pay another attorney. I am an attorney. I've been an attorney for 30 years, and I want all my colleagues to have work. But the fact that the Public Defender's Office is willing to help everybody, anybody and everybody, so long as there's not a conflict, I sincerely appreciate that on behalf of the community.
Absolutely. And even those that we do have a conflict, we will put them in contact with the right attorney who can help them out. So we're not going to leave anyone out there left to dry without any assistance.
Great. Thank you. Now, here's a story and a question from a constituent. It says, I don't understand why the prosecutor has the final say in my record getting expunged. I served in a fire camp as a Type 2 wildland firefighter. When I was released, I enrolled in college in the EMT program, a two-part program. I passed the first part in the top 5% of my class, but couldn't continue on to the final EMT program because of my criminal record. I am now trying to get on with CAL FIRE as an EMT firefighter, but I am afraid of being rejected by the prosecutor. What are the benefits? So the first part is that true? Does the prosecutor have the final word?
The prosecutor does not have the final word. They have a say, but the final word comes from the judge, the bench officer wearing the robe. So he is the final arbiter, final say.
And that was really important. The prosecutor will receive notice of the expungement as they would now. And the prosecutor will have an opinion and will file a response if they want. But the judge is the one who has the final discretion. They have the final say based on the evidence of rehabilitation provided. So thank you for reminding us of that. And again, as we said at the beginning, the decision from the judge, should the judge deny it, it is without prejudice, which means that they can apply again. And as you said, when the judge denies it, the judge will indicate why it was being denied, and it gives time to fix whatever the judge feels needs to be worked on.
Right. And to the individual that sent in the question, Our contact info is in the chat, and give us a call. We will guide you down the path to make sure we do it right and the packet gets submitted correctly. So please give us a call.
Thank you, Tom. All right, here's another question. What department is overseeing the implementation of AB 2147? Are there equity safeguards embedded into this process? Is there reporting requirements to see data on racial equity?
Wow, great question. There really isn't a department overseeing the implementation. I could tell you that as a law and justice community, we meet, we discuss the new bills that are coming into effect and ways to implement them the most efficient manner and how we can do it. Obviously, from my department standpoint and from us, racial equities, equity safeguards are important. Recently, what our department started doing finally is to capture or try and capture demographics, information, statistics on demographics, race, gender, age, so that we could run our own reports to see if there are any inequities that we need to address. So from my department's perspective, that's how we're going to do it. After this gets going in the new year, maybe a couple months down the road, we'll run a report to see how many individuals contacted my office to file a petition, how many petitions were deemed eligible on our part, how many were submitted, how many were granted, and then we're going to be able to run demographic information as to race to see if there's any inequities. So from my department standpoint, that's how we'll approach it.
I think that I think that's why I appreciate your department even more. Recently, Pastor Sam Casey and I were part of a panel with our judges for San Bernardino County. And I see in the chat, there's concern about some of the more conservative judges who are former prosecutors who still make decisions based upon that sort of a background. I think that having, especially on the panel that we were on, we talked about some of these issues of equity, some of these issues of racism at the core, quite frankly. And that is why the County of San Bernardino declared racism a public health issue. But I think that we still have lots of work to be done. But I also I also believe that we do have we have some really good judges too, that I believe have gone through this entire system enough. And after the information is gathered, we'll also be able to see if there's more legislation that needs to be introduced so that the parameters of the expungement are clearer if there is a problem. Because right now it is the petition, it is the fact that you were that you participated successfully as an inmate firefighter and completed the program. So we'll look to see how that is interpreted by the bench, and then make the determinations to what needs to be done in the future.
Absolutely, and I see Pastor Sam Casey in the chat. I've spoken with Pastor Sam Casey last week. I know we plan on meeting after the start of the year to discuss some ideas that I have and that he has, and how we can incorporate his organization, COPE, as well. So I'm excited for the future.
Very good, thank you. Now, when we talk about the department that's overseeing the implementation, I'm thinking that maybe the person who was inquiring about this is the implementation of, why don't we take it a step further, the implementation of the California Conservation Camp. How are the inmates selected? Is it anybody and everybody?
It's not. So obviously they have requirements that they look at. One is the amount of time that they have on their sentence. They look at the offenses that they were convicted of. Those who are convicted of serious and violent offenses, as well as crimes involving, sex, mostly sex charges, 290 registrations are not eligible. So they have their original basis screening. After they determine who's eligible, they also put them on a 30-day probation before they actually enter the formal program to see what the personality types are, whether or not they're able to learn the procedures, the laws that go with it. And so they have a very rigorous screening program. And I know in one of the questions, someone specifically asked about arson. Someone who is convicted of arson is not eligible. So that shouldn't be a concern.
Very good. Let me see the next question. And that was the next question. With the increase of wildfires in California, I am concerned that people who will qualify for this expungement are people who are incarcerated due to arson. Can you please confirm if they are excluded from this? And just as you said, arson is one of those who will automatically exclude them from participating in the California Conservation Camp Firefighter Program.
That's correct.
Will the increase of expungement applicants put a financial burden on counties, courts, or designated state agencies who will review these applications? And if so, how does COVID-19 impact this from being implemented?
So I think with any bill passage like this, there's always going to be an increase of work that's created. But it's one where I think initially there might be a surge of applicants just because we have that population who has already completed fire camp and they're already out that are eligible now who weren't previously. But it's going to plateau out down the road. Once we get through those, I think the number of individuals who get released from fire camp on a yearly basis isn't that much. And when I look at it, I think it's not, the numbers aren't anymore, right? They would have either been eligible today or 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now. So we would have to process these petitions anyway at some point. So I don't think I have too big of a concern on the workload burden that it might create. With COVID, it will slow down the process, but I don't think we'll have any issues in implementation. We're able to meet with our clients via telephone, virtually, like we are today, or via email exchanges, so we can easily process the petitions during this time as well.
And in fact, in any given year, there are statewide, there are 1,500 to about 3,000 active participants in these inmate firefighter programs. So it's a small amount, quite frankly, that could potentially seek these expungements after they have successfully completed the program. And I think that if we look long-term, the individuals who've completed the program and get an expungement, they're going to go on to find a career. They'll be paying taxes, contribute to the local economy. When we look at it now, it's a loss because we spend and we spend and we spend on incarceration and prisons only to release people with no hope for employment and creating more societal costs. This is a win-win for all of us, quite frankly. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's providing opportunities. You know, my department is a department for second chances and opportunities. And anytime we could open up more doors and give more opportunities to our community members to go out and get employed, get back on their feet, try to get housing, pay their bills, buy food, it's a win-win for everybody.
I just got a message that they're asking for more information about how they're going to contact you, what information you need specifically besides the case number. When you receive the phone call, is it better to call, better to email? Is it in person? To once again, to go through that.
Sure. For right now, we don't need to meet in person. If we need to, we can via Zoom or another virtual meeting application. Phone call always works, or an email inquiry on our website at sbpubdef.com. Under, I think it's Clear My Record tab, there is a screening sheet with all the required information. It's basically name, phone number, address, date of birth, case number, contact information for us to contact you. to get any additional questions answered that we need. And that's about it. It's pretty basic. And now that I looked, it's under the Know Your Rights tab.
Excellent. So once you receive this information from someone, now can a family member reach out to you rather than the person being affected?
Absolutely. A family member can reach out, but because the family member is not the individual that we might have previously represented or will represent on the petition, the amount of information that we might be able to give back to them could be limited. But we will absolutely take the information from them, get started, and contact the individuals who's requesting it if we need further information.
Wonderful. Now, I know that in the chat you have provided information about how to contact you. Do you need letters from anybody else? Once somebody has applied, do you need further information from or letters of support from anyone else?
So, a lot of times I always say letters of recommendations, letters of support are great. I think the beauty behind the new legislation is we might not need it. A lot of times, the way that I see it, if we could get proof of completion of the fire camp successfully, right, that's all we might need in this scenario. It's something that I'm discussing or will be discussing with our law and justice partners, but I think that's all we're going to need. And I will let you know that what I'm trying to do is work with the sheriff's department to see if there's some way we can expedite some of that. So if we could get notice prior to them completing the program, then we might be able to get the ball rolling even sooner.
Wonderful. Besides the certain crimes that are that will cause somebody to be excluded, what else is necessary? What else is CDCR looking at to accept somebody into the California Conservation Camp, specifically regarding behavior during the incarceration?
Sure, I know a big thing's going to be crimes of violence. Right. I don't think they're going to be too open to accepting individuals who have a history or repeated pattern of violence. So that's going to be one of the factors that will eliminate someone. I do know that even if an individual is eligible on paper, they have that 30-day kind of probation period to see the individual and get to know their personality to make sure that their personality is going to be a fit.
Wonderful. Now, as you can tell from many of those who are joining us today, we also have many advocacy groups that have spent a lot of time working with and assisting formerly incarcerated and providing the dignity that they deserve. What can our advocacy groups do to help?
Assemblymember, you know that we've worked with your team previously in the past doing expungement clinics or anything that we can. I would invite any community member or advocacy group to reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's see what we're able to collaborate on to better serve our communities.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. It wasn't one of the questions, but you're right. We've done expungement clinics in the past, Prop 47 expungement clinics through my office, and also in my prior life as a volunteer with our legal aid, the Inland Empire Latino Lawyers Legal Aid. We did expungement clinics with your office, and I was very grateful to the professionalism and all the assistance you all provided. Maybe that's one of the things that we can work together to do. Sometime in the near future when we can all get together and maybe do an expungement clinic together. Another question is, does your office also help with certificates of rehabilitation?
We do. We absolutely will help individual certificate of rehabilitations. Those are more time consuming. The time restrictions on when an individual can apply for relief varies. Usually it can be either 5 to 7 years after being released. In those types of scenarios, community contacts letters of reference, letters of recommendation, examples of what they've been doing since release is going to be really important.
Very good. And another question was, does your office work closely with our District Attorney Jason Anderson's office in working on new policies and implementing new laws?
We do. Anytime there's a new law or new idea we do collaborate with the DA's office. We do collaborate with all of our law and justice partners. I will mention one of the new laws that are taking place at the start of the year is a new diversion program that gives the bench officers discretion to grant diversion, even over a DA's objection. So we are working on all those, and we do try and work collaboratively until we can't.
That's the way it always is. I appreciate when we all have a willingness, and I do see that with many of the people here at the county. Another question is, once someone is granted a record clearing or an expungement, are they eligible then to apply for a job anywhere?
They are. Even without the expungement, individuals can apply for jobs anywhere. It's just that when they do a background check on the application, they ask, have you been convicted of a felony? You have to mark yes. They do a background check, and background check comes back that they have a prior felony conviction, which will a lot of times either disqualify individuals or employers just aren't going to like it, and it puts them at a disadvantage. The beauty behind the new bill and with the expungement process or the record clearing process is that if it is granted under this new bill, as long as it is not a excluded profession or an included profession, I guess, you can mark that you have not been convicted of a felony. And it really would be advantageous to do that. Yes,
we do know that in my first year, I was a joint author of AB 1008, I believe was the number, ban the box for government jobs, but now it was for private industry. We know that it's still happening. If people are asked, even though that's not the way the application should be, but if somebody is turned away, even though they've already had the expungement, what can they do?
Well, that's always the difficult part, especially in this economy and trying to find jobs. There are resources out there. We have social workers in our office that might be able to assist. I don't want to give anyone a false sense of hope that if you contact us, we're going to get you a job, because that's not likely to happen. But we will see what we can do to help you out, to try and get everybody back on the right track. And if there was anything that seems off from when they were not, if they weren't given a job or something happened, we'll definitely look into it.
Mute.
All right. Well, wonderful. Tom, I think those are all of our questions. This has been really good. This has been very informative, and it's more than just getting the information. It's knowing that there is a process and that our public defender's office already has the process in place. So would you provide some closing comments, please?
Absolutely. Assembly member, I appreciate the opportunity to let our community members know that we're here for them, to serve them. Please reach out to us, even if it is not about this new bill, if it's about a case that they have where we represent them, or any services that they're struggling with that we might be able to help them. Please contact us. If we can't provide services, we'll try and point you in the right direction. And I appreciate your efforts in Sacramento, Assembly Member. I am always excited to see new laws that benefit our communities and our clients come down. So please, this is great. This is awesome.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate all of our community groups and community leaders and those who will be directly affected by AB 2147. I sincerely appreciate that they have all joined us. I appreciate my team, very specifically my senior district representative, Esmeralda Vasquez, who is absolutely amazing, dedicated to our community, and was responsible for making sure that we put this town hall together. And I appreciate her very much. On the call also with us is my district director, Maha Rizvi, who has been with me from the very beginning, has done an outstanding job as district director, making sure that the community's needs are met. I have a fantastic team, as you do. And I know that we always rely on our teams to make sure that the community knows that they can reach us. Our number is in the chat box. It's 909-381-3238. And I do want we're talking about expungements and we're talking about AB 2147, but please know that our office is available. Our doors may be closed because of COVID, but all calls are returned. My team is still working remotely, and on occasion they will go into the office, so long as it's not more than 2 people going into the office. And we're taking care of all the needs of our community. A big part of that has to do with EDD benefits. Continue to call us. We are there to help you. And we look forward to continuing this work. I want to share also, as most of you know, I was recently appointed as the new majority leader for the State Assembly. I am honored to have been placed in this position, honored to have been selected by our speaker, Anthony Rendon, who has been a great champion for our community as well, has been very supportive of those things that, when I tell them that the Inland Empire needs something in particular, I'm surrounded by colleagues who listen. The Inland Empire Caucus, all of my colleagues here from the Inland Empire have been very supportive, and I sincerely appreciate all of their work collectively to make sure that the laws we need to have passed get passed. But today, just knowing that our public defender, our interim public defender, Tom Sohn, has been able to dedicate this time with us, I sincerely appreciate you. And with that, thank you to all of you who have joined us. Have a wonderful day. Please know that that this segment has been recorded and it will be available if you would like to revisit it. Remember to send us questions, reach out to our office. Most importantly, reach out to your public defender and your public defender's office to begin that process for yourself and your loved ones. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.